This is Storytellers and Storysellers live on tape. You're listening to me, Vineet Kanabar, on the IVM Podcast Network. I think it was September of 2020 when I had my dear friend Ganesh Iyer from Radio Mirchi on this show. In that episode, Ganesh talked about how Mirchi, which is I think everybody's favorite radio brand, right? Since its inception in 1998.
99 we formed. 2000 was the first year that we launched the first radio station.
Yeah, 2000. So 1999, 2000. It's the first private radio station, right? That comes with
some weight.
Yeah, some weight, right? Absolutely. On that episode, Ganesh revealed a big secret about Radio Mirchi. Ganesh told me that you were going to drop the radio and go Mirchi only. And I was very excited when Ganesh talked to me about all of this, because I'm a keen observer of this space. I'm deeply invested in audio in a big way. And like Jalasmi said just outside, man, Mirchi has something to do with all of us accessing such great content. I'm delighted to be joined by Preeti Nihalani, Chief Operating Officer at ENIL, the company that runs Mirchi. Preeti, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Vineet. It's indeed a pleasure to be here, and I think I'm wondering why was I not here earlier.
But now you're here, and we will not let you go without having a riveting conversation about where Mirchi is today, where Mirchi will be in the future, what radio holds in a world that is going digital, that is getting scattered. Where does this space really evolve? And that's the conversation I want to have with you. I don't think there's anyone better to have this chat with. So thank you for making the time.
Thank you.
Go nowhere. We'll be back after a short break and continue this chat. This is Storytellers and Storysellers. I'm Vineet Kanabar. We'll be back right after these messages.
Hi, this is Cyrus Rogan Brocha. Pyar se Rogues. I've come up with a brand new idea. It's a premium product called Club Cyrus Says. It's an offer open just for you. Let me tell you about the product. We've got exclusive Cock and Bull episodes just for you. That's right, just for you. That means others don't get to see it. Also, you get exclusive footage, extra bits, the uncut version of the interviews with celebrities. And these are huge celebrities, not small-time celebrities. Only the big guys come on the show. So you'll get the exclusive bits that nobody else gets. The extra tidbits, special stuff, uncensored stuff you don't want to put out. That's just for you. And for our audio listeners, you get special ad-free content and early access to interviews and sessions and podcasts which nobody else will get. You'll get it first. You're the first people. You're Neil Armstrong. You're Edmund Hillary. You're whoever discovered India. You're that. And by becoming an exclusive member of Club Cyrus Says, you get the power. We transfer the power to you and you become the producers and you will decide what content or what happens on that show. You are the masters and we can't use words like that. People who work for the masters, basically. So guys, get in. Special audio features include, I can't remember.
Preeti Nihalani plays a key role in overseeing Mirchi's business operations. Preeti is COO at ENIL, and I'm going to ask her to share insights about how radio is such a resilient broadcast medium after 100 long years. Mirchi, since 99-2000, like we said at the top of the episode, is India's #1 music and entertainment company, right? Obviously, someone who works in PR has written this, well written. But what is definitely true is that Mirchi has molded traditional radio to evolve into a digital world. I remember being extremely excited when Mirchi launched. I think Pune was the first city that Mirchi launched in. Indore?
Yeah. Pune was also in the initial phases.
Initial phases as well, right? I mean, I got to know of 98.3 Radio Mirchi, it's hot, from my cousins in Pune. And that's my memory, right? And I was like, मेरे शहर में क्यों नहीं है? मैं क्यों नागपुर में रहता हूँ? मुझे क्यों सुनना पड़ता है ये आकाशवाणी, right?
हमने नागपुर लॉन्च किया 2006 या 2007 में.
हाँ जी. And by that time, I remember going to the to the offices there to try and crack deals for my college festival at NIT Nagpur.
और just आपके लिए हमने मिर्ची, सिर्फ मिर्ची 98.3 नहीं, नागपुर में 2 चैनल लॉन्च किए. मिर्ची लव भी है आपके लिए.
Oh,
so we have 2 frequencies in
amazing.
Nagpur. Yes.
That's amazing. So, I mean, Nagpur has come of age, man. So, Preeti, tell me this, right? Since the rebrand, what has changed?
Okay, first of all, let me clarify this to everybody who asked me this question. And when we were doing this, and when Ganesh told you that we are dropping radio from Mirchi, we're not dropping radio. Radio remains our core business. It is a cash cow for us. 2/3 of our revenue comes from radio. And although the other businesses are growing faster, but it doesn't mean that we are not focused on radio. Right. So, radio from the name we dropped because Mirchi, over more than a decade, actually, for last 15 years, we expanded ourselves into doing far more than radio. We, back in 2008 and 9, when the first recession started, that Lehman crisis and all, we said, boss, ऐसा बिजनेस करना पड़ेगा जो थोड़ा सा रेजिलिएंट है एंड यू नो इट्स नॉट कम्प्लीटली एंटायरली डिपेंडेंट ऑन ओनली एडवर्टाइजर्स, स्पॉन्सर्स, एट्सेट्रा एट्सेट्रा. So we started some of the event businesses of ours wherein there were audiences who were coming, participating, ticketing, etc. etc. That was happening. So back then we moved out, and in fact if you look at our vision statement, Vineet, very closely, our vision statement clearly states that we are city-centric entertainment brand. Right? We don't say we are city-centric radio brand.
Right.
So this vision was formed way back. In fact, when we were forming this organization, and I would give credit to Mr. A.P. Parigi, who was the first CEO MD, then followed by Mr. Prashant Pandey, who recently stepped down and he's gone out.
Shout out to Prashant Pandey. What a man.
Yes. To both Prashant and Mr. Parigi. So, so this vision was created long ago. And we, I mean, over a period of time, we have lived this vision. And there was a time when we realized that Mirchi is beyond radio now, way beyond radio. And audiences look at us as an entertainment brand. We are not purely radio. We are there in event space. We are there in digital space. So there came a time that we said, okay, let's drop the name radio from the brand Mirchi. But radio as a business remains.
Right.
Now coming to the other the other question that you asked, saying that what has changed. Let me put it this way, that there are a lot of changes that have happened in the environment in terms of how audiences are consuming media. In earlier days, when mobile was just very new, I mean, since I'm in this space, I may throw some numbers at you. Consumers were spending just about 45 minutes a day about 8 or 9 years ago on their mobile phones.
Right.
Today, that has increased to 10 hours in a day.
Right.
10 hours. I mean, it is so much. But back in that day also, Vineet, FM FM radio used to get about 120 minutes of audiences time in a day.
Right.
Today it is down to 100 minutes.
Right.
So it's not zero.
Sure.
It's down to 100 minutes, and it stayed steady in last 5 years at 100 minutes odd. So maybe 95 some year 100, 105, whatever. So steady at 100 minutes. And we don't see any further massive decline in it.
Sure.
One of the other mediums that has got massively hit because of this is print, of course, because the physical form of print has moved to the digital form of print. But radio's consumption has stayed steady in last 5 years. And I'll give you a reason behind, a very, very basic reason behind this is radio is a medium which is very local, number one. You know, if you're listening to playlists or music apps, in fact, we also have an app of ours, which is not in music, non-music storytelling app. But all sort of audio, despite that, you find place for radio because one, it is local.
Right.
You don't have to apply your brain. You know, when you're listening to playlists, you have to apply your brain. You have to think, आज क्या सुनना चाहिए. There is no surprise factor. There is no joke. There is no live feeling to it.
Sure.
So there are a lot of reasons why people come to radio. There is discovery that happens, you know, discovery of music, discovery of what's happening in your city, etc., etc. So audiences are still there on radio. And as long as audiences stay, business stays.
Love it. But the diets of audiences today are fundamentally different, right? The choice that you're talking about, and I'm just trying to couch this question in an elegant way here, right? The choice that you're talking about today is a feature, not a bug, right? For most people, right? The frictionless nature of skipping a song, choosing what I want to listen to, choosing what, whether it's audio, whether it's music, whether it's podcast, whether it's whatever else, right? What I'm trying to get at is, for you, what used to be the playground, which is the airwaves, right, today represents one part of the business, right? I mean, I was at the marathon, and the only brand you could see at the marathon was Mirchi Plus. Right? And Mirchi Plus is a big part of what your future strategy is going to be. I remember talking to Ganesh a couple of years ago now, and he was very excited about Radio Mirchi going video. Right? I think you do run a few of the biggest YouTube channels in
yes.
local content as well,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So what I'm observing as an outsider in this space is that while going from Radio Mirchi to Mirchi, you kept the good parts of radio, which is local content, representation, fast-paced, interesting people who are presenting that content. And yet you've sort of imbibed the changes that are coming around you, right? To put this in further stark contrast, मैं जब छोटा था, right? My first phone, my first 3 phones for that matter, had an FM option, right? The smartphone today doesn't have it, right? I remember tuning into certain shows at certain points in time during the day to be like, bro, ye mera time hai. This is where I'm discovering the kind of music I want. I remember driving in Nagpur when I was younger and having Love Guru on at 11 o'clock at night and stuff like that, right? Whereas the paradigm today is fundamentally different. Right? What I'd love for you to take us through is how your approach to planning this bouquet of offerings today has changed and what goes into doing something like that.
Let me break this into 2 parts, this conversation into 2 parts, wherein in first part I'm going to tell you, Vineet, that radio is still heard. Right. And the second part I'll tell you how we are embracing the new audiences when they are not listening to radio.
Sure.
And how are we getting into their lives at that point in time. So like I said that today audiences are still listening to 100 minutes a day of radio. So let me just first focus on that 100 minutes a day. We do car dipstick studies, which we do with Hansa Research, and I'll share some very, very sharp findings from that research and very top line findings without going in much detail. Do you know 8 out of 10 people in their cars are tuned into radio,
Right.
FM radio.
Right.
There are 5 people out of those 10 people who are tuned into other form of any entertainment.
Sure.
Out of those 5, 3 are tuned into all apps, music apps, etc. Spotify, YouTube Music, etc. And 2 are tuning into via some device. Right. So majority is still tuned into FM. This is the audience most brands want to target.
Sure.
Right. So radio stays very strong there. Then there is recent study which came, I think about a fortnight ago in Economic Times and some of the other publications. It's called Toluna Research Agency, Toluna India. They did this research and they did it in December and January of this year, January 23. They went to tier 2, tier 3 towns and they did survey amongst college kids. They did survey amongst working individuals, etc. Some of the top line studies over there say that 75% of youth tunes into radio. Right. Large population tunes into some number like 33% of them tune into radio every alternate day.
Sure.
Right. So there is a huge audience which is there. One of the things that I was telling you outside before the interview started, what radio lacks is the brag value.
Sure.
Right? You don't come and say that, listen, मैंने आज जीतू राज को ये बोलते हुए सुना था. right? Or I discovered this on radio. It is like you had dal chawal yesterday, you won't come and tell your friends. But if you had sushi yesterday, you would come and say, listen, I tried sushi at this place.
Right.
So that's the difference. So that's the radio part of it. And that is what is finding very, very relevant, place in the brand space as well.
Sure.
So advertisers are back like how post-pandemic. Post-pandemic, there is a 10% growth in number of advertisers on radio.
Right.
And I'm talking about industry, I'm not talking about Mirchi.
Right.
Now coming to audiences, I mean, it's not that the medium is, like I said, a brag value medium. So obviously we don't want to be only in that medium which is not talked about. There is no buzz around it, etc., etc. So what's the medium? Which is video, right? Digital audio. So these are the mediums wherein there is a brag value, wherein you say that, okay, I heard this on that podcast platform, or I saw this video, Kareena was looking so good in that, or whatever. So what we have also done, therefore, and this journey also we began about 7-8 years ago, wherein, in fact, 5 years ago, we used to do 9,000 videos a year.
Right.
9,000 videos a year. Today we do in excess of 30,000 videos a year.
Wow.
Which go across all our platforms, social media handles, YouTube platforms, our app, and so on and so forth. So 30,000 videos is not a by chance or a joke.
Of course not.
Right? It's a serious investment that we have put behind it. If I was to tell you that in the space of Bollywood entertainment, we are the largest in terms of views that we generate.
Right.
Last quarter, we generated about average of 418 million views on our only on YouTube.
Every month.
Average.
Right.
You compare it with, let's say, a Pink Villa or let's say a Bollywood Hangama. They are in the range of about 100, 110, 120,
Sure.
whatever. So 400 doesn't happen by chance.
Right.
So there is a serious effort plan behind it. We do a lot of original content. When I say original content, we stay close to the original vision of ours, wherein we try and remain in the entertainment zone, Bollywood zone. Music is another zone that Mirchi is associated with. So most of our shows are either in this zone, or there are unscripted videos that we do, which are with the jocks. There are impromptus, somebody walking into the studio and then you break into a dance sequence. And these are like short, quick videos which generate a lot of views, a lot of engagement. In fact, on another point is on engagement front. On engagement front also, the content that we create and goes on social media, our engagement is roughly about 2.5x more than any of the other entertainment companies.
Right.
So, and I'm not comparing here radio because the competition changes.
Right.
And so, so these are the ways that we are engaging with audiences, embracing the new audiences and their choices. Let's see where it takes us.
No, I'm stoked for how it's working out for you, right? I mean, what I admire about Mirchi, and I may not know enough about the rest of the channels that are in this space, but what I really admire about Mirchi is that there has been a concerted effort to retool and upskill, whether it's your jocks, whether it's your people who are working on the business at the Storysellers side, or it's the output that you're putting together, right? I mean, I remember, shout out to Sangeeta Nair.
Yes, she's still around.
Who would call, I know she called me, she called a bunch of my dear friends at TVF to come and share our learnings with folks at Mirchi. And I remember that effort was not a short-lived effort, right? It went on for 2 years or something. I think it still goes on. It still goes on, right? I think, and that was something that I really admired, right? And because I know this background, I can really contextualize the results and the output that you're talking about, because jocks are the original influencers, right? These are the people that went on the air every day, and being a jock is relentless, right? It's not like being an Instagram influencer where you can टेक एंड रीटेक और मेरे को 50 फोटो खींचूंगा मैं, उसमें से मेरे को जो अच्छा लगा वही डालूंगा, वो भी एक्चुअली उतने अच्छे होते हैं नहीं.
पैसा लगता है एक्चुअली सब में.
Correct, right? But to be a jock, you need to have a real talent, and that talent is very like specific, right? I mean, let's take Jitu Raj for example. I don't think anybody knows how Jitu Raj looks. Do you know how Jitu Raj looks? Nobody knows how Jitu Raj looks.
I know.
Yeah, of course, you know how Jitu Raj looks, right? Of course, yeah, I mean, if you didn't know how Jitu Raj looks, then that
Then
would be
there
like
is a
there's a
problem.
next level. He wears a Key Fox mask, and he's the real V for Vendetta guy, right? But no, that's what I'm saying, right? Nobody knows how he looks.
That's the personality he's built on air.
That's the personality he's built on
Absolutely.
air, right? And to have that, I think what Mirchi has 275, 300 jocks, give or take?
170.
170 jocks, right? To train 170 people who are used to one medium and one type of content into another universe altogether, right? And then to see the kind of success that you're seeing, that takes a relentless organizational will.
Yep.
Right? And that I must congratulate you about.
Thank you
right? I
so
think
much.
there is something to learn.
There is a lot of effort that the team puts behind it, and thank you so much for appreciating and acknowledging it.
No, I mean, I must, because like I said, I was part of it for a very small few sessions, right? I met Mr. Pandey, I met my current boss, Baloo. I'm going to say Rahul Balyan, so he gives me a nice appraisal.
He's your boss, right? So
He is,
you
yeah.
better be safe.
No, he loves me. I know. Cut this out, yeah. But no,
And send it to Balu.
yeah, I'll do it myself. But yeah, that's what it's fantastic, right? And that's the growth story I want to talk about a little bit more, right? I think there was a time when there was an arms race to open channels. Right, every city finding new cities, opening channels. This was maybe the middle of the first decade of this century.
You mean the radio stations?
The radio stations, right?
So it's bidded, right? It's
Yeah.
There's a bidding process,
Right.
And, yeah.
And how are you looking at growth now then, right? Is the emphasis still on making sure that the airwaves are still secure and that's your first port of call, or is the events?
उसमें तो पैसा चला गया ना भाई.
बिल्कुल, उसमें तो investment चला गया, right?
Upfront investment.
Right? Or is the events business now taking precedence, or is video now coming through? Because as you add complexity here, right, it also requires rethinking in how your P&L is working, in how your workforce is trained. How are you looking at that?
Okay, so just to give you a perspective on where we are on radio space, radio has seen some 3 rounds of bidding that has happened.
Mm-hmm.
As of today, we are in 63 cities with 73 frequencies,
Right.
which means in some of the cities we have double, and one of the cities we have 3 frequencies as well, which
Right.
is Hyderabad.
Right.
So, and the way radio business works is there is an upfront, I mean, you've already bid it and the license is there with you for 15 years, and then you move to the second phase. So
Right.
many of our licenses which we bidded in 2000 are now in the second phase of.
And what happens in the second phase?
Second phase, you upgrade to the next fee level.
Right.
So whichever, so let's say Delhi was phase 1.
Mm-hmm.
So when the rebidding happened for Delhi and more frequencies opened up,
Right.
that's a time when some of the other new stations
Right.
launched in those cities. So they pay that fee, right? So we have to come up to that level,
Right.
which is called migration fee.
Right.
So we have already paid the migration fee for next 15 years. So
Got
your
it.
license is now renewed for next 15 years.
Got it.
So we would be in what? I mean, for the next phase, 9 or 10 years remaining for that frequency, for the new licenses.
Mm-hmm.
So how are we looking at this business? See, radio is a very high operating leverage business, which means your investment has happened upfront.
Mm-hmm.
Large part of investment has happened upfront in licensing.
Right.
Right. What is your operational cost through the year? Is people cost largely. Running the station, kharcha, pani, bijli, studio running, etc. And the music royalties.
Right.
Right, which also thankfully to IPAB orders in September 20, which is the fee is also fixed.
Mm-hmm.
So a large part of your cost is already paid for. So whatever you earn goes straight into your bottom line,
Right.
minus of these small expenses. So radio remains a very, very cash rich or a cash cow kind of business for most operators.
Sure.
So at an operating level for radio, it always will be a cash cow business for most business houses. And we look at it like that it'll keep generating profits for you or cash for you. And that's what do you do with that cash? I mean, today if you read our balance sheet, you'll realize we have 200 plus crore cash lying in our kitty.
Right.
Now, what do we do with this cash? So what we do is we invest in new businesses.
Right.
And these new businesses are your digital businesses. That's from there comes the investment into the platform of ours, or all the video content generation, etc., etc. But also, let me tell you that as a group, we have a philosophy that we maintain profit or P&L level break-evens even in our digital and IP businesses.
Right.
Unless it's a platform investment. So
Sure.
obviously, platform investments you can leverage over a period of time. So that's where the investment goes in. Now, coming to the business side of it, how do we see how is the business broken down or the P&Ls broken down? Today, 2/3 of our revenue comes from radio. Right. I mean, pre-pandemic, we have seen highs of 550 and 620 odd crores of business.
Right.
And even in those years, about 30% business used to come from radio, and rest of it, which is roughly about say 180, 190 crores, will come from non-radio businesses.
Sure.
In those days, in non-radio business, 95% of that business used to be events business.
Right.
And hardly about 5% was digital. Today, ratio of non-radio is increased from 30 to 35, 36%. And the ratio of digital within that is increased from earlier 5% to now around 11, 12%.
Right.
Which is what we want to take to 25%.
Sure.
So that's where the energies are going behind and the investment is going behind.
That's such a clean breakdown, and I think it's illuminating because I remember having a conversation at IVM itself, talking about what we can learn from radio, right? And we tend to forget the defensibility that such a large legacy media operation brings you, right? It doesn't erode quickly, right? Even though macro factors are changing, consumer behavior is changing. Like you said, the 60 to 70% of top line contribution coming from a media that the average Joe on the street is going to be like, radio kaun sunta hai? And it's a very interesting conundrum to be sitting on, and I want to go deeper into this by trying to understand what makes it so lucrative still, right? And what is your pitch to brands today to keep them coming back? Like you said earlier, 10% growth in brands, which also means either there are newer brands advertising on the medium, or there are old brands who had lapsed and are coming back, both of which are massive wins, right? What is then the current pitch?
Okay, let me ask you a question before
Sure.
I answer that question.
Sure.
Now, tell me intuitively, what would you believe that a media manager in a big corporate or a owner of a small retail business, किससे पैसा लाना difficult होता है?
किससे पैसा लाना difficult होता है? Media manager in a big corporate is harder to convince.
Is it?
Because
उसको तो साइन करना है ना.
वो भी है.
उसका खुद का पैसा नहीं है. Justify करना है.
वो भी है, but उसके पास भी options बहुत हैं.
Options बहुत हैं. That's right.
Right?
That's right.
I mean,
but let's say, you've closed on the options.
No, here's my thought process. I might be entirely wrong, right? But my thought process is, जो मीडिया मैनेजर है वहाँ पे उसको डेटा पता है, उसको स्टोरी पता है, उसको ऑप्शंस पता है, उसके पास क्रिक बस भी आ रहा है, उसके पास रेडियो मिर्ची भी आ रहा है, उसके पास स्पॉटिफाई भी जा रहा है, उसके पास IVM भी जा रहा है, उसके पास यूट्यूब भी जा रहा है, उसको सारा नंबर पता है, उसका पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू है, राइट? जबकि जो लोकल बिजनेस ओनर है उसको शायद पता ही नहीं है यूट्यूब क्या होता है, उसको शायद पता ही नहीं है फेसबुक पे ऐड कैसे चलाते हैं.
लेकिन क्या होता है कि रिटेल बिजनेसेस आर मोर फोकस्ड ऑन फुटफॉल. आज मेरी दुकान पे कितने लोग आए और क्या सुनकर आए या क्या देख कर आए, राइट? Radio consistently has seen retail advertisers coming back and back and back,
right?
Which is the proof of the fact that radio works.
Sure.
Right? And that's the story that every retailer and it is like, oh, okay, वो check these stores लेता है, radio लेता है, उसके लिए काम करता है तो मेरे लिए भी करेगा.
Right.
Then the other guy also buys and then the other guy also buys. And within that community, radio keeps working and keeps growing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and because radio is very local in nature, right? I have sales teams in 63 cities, Vineet.
Which is mad.
Which is immense.
Right.
Right. That is one more strength that we have, and which is what we leverage when we sell other events and properties of ours. So radio, if it is working for retail, that says a lot of things, right? Maruti ki gaadi, I'm sorry, Maruti is a great advertiser, good friend. So again, shout out to that team. But for Maruti, gaadi bikni hai, to wo radio se biki ya print se biki. They do that research and study and all of that stuff. But they have taken 20 medias, right? Whatever. And within those 20, they have taken maybe another 40, 50 total brands.
Sure.
For advertising. So what exactly worked, they may not be able to exactly pinpoint, even despite how much research you do. But that retailer, the owner of that retail shop has taken only 2 or 3 things,
right,
in his media plan.
Right.
And जब वो दुकान में कोई चल कर आता है तो वो पूछते भी हैं कि मैडम आपने क्या सुना, क्या देख कर आए थे, आपने वो मूवी में ऐड देखा था या आपने रेडियो में सुना था. They even go to the extent of asking कौन सी ब्रांड पे सुना आपने.
Right.
So the fact that advertisers are back, pre-pandemic, there were roughly about 11,000 odd advertisers year till date. Today there are 11,700 or something advertisers, number of exclusive advertisers.
Sure.
Retail advertisers have come back like how. So that's the fact that radio works.
No, I mean, I think you've just given us a great lesson in understanding that business is not जो दिखता है वो बिकता है. Business is जो बिकता है वो जो बेचता है वो खरीदो. Right? I think there's a deep lesson to be had from this. Sorry.
And I'll tell you one more thing. We've launched a new product called MPing, right? It's an advertiser product.
Right.
So basically what we're doing is it's a digital ad inventory.
Right.
So wherein the advertisers can... So we are the best sellers of audio, I would proudly say that. So what we do is when we go to the advertiser, we take them through the entire audio journey. So we say, audience जहाँ भी सुनेगा, FM पे सुनेगा तो वो रेडियो मिर्ची पे आप you are coming. But if that guy is listening to say Spotify or something else, some podcast or something, so through this network, it's a audience focused, platform agnostic approach that we take.
Sure.
So we will give you
like programmatic audio kind of.
Absolutely like
Right.
that. But it is focused entirely on audio.
Right.
Most of the agencies, they don't focus on audio.
Right.
So we have developed lot of dashboards and lot of intelligence around what are the kind of audiences, what are they tuning in, etc., etc. And we have done fantastic tie-ups with most of the platforms. Great product. We launched about 4-5 months ago. We've got fantastic response. But today also, when my team goes, I still first RO that comes, the paisa that comes is on radio.
Right.
Right. I have to literally run schemes and offers and what not for my sales team to tell them that boss, sell MPing. That's the future saving product of yours.
Right.
So it's not easy. It's not easy.
I mean, I can't imagine it being easy, right? And I'm glad that you talked about programmatic audio as well, because clearly you're heading in that direction.
Yes, we are.
Right? With the suite of products and different media brands that you're running, I think it is where video was maybe 6-7 years ago, when Google started aggressively selling DFA and DoubleClick. And I think definitely it's a big shot. I heard about MPing a few days ago actually, during an office conversation where we were figuring out what do we do with our inventory, and it's an interesting development, interesting turn of events, and I'm glad that it's working out for you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into a quick break.
Yes.
We'll come back and talk a little bit more about radio. This is an absolute masterclass in how the future of audio and future of Mirchi is being charted out. Go nowhere. We'll be back after these short messages.
Hey everyone, welcome to IVM Podcast. Here's what we have got in store for you this week. Listeners, presenting to you Club Cyrus Says, the premier tier offering for our podcast. Club members will get exclusive Cock and Bull episodes every Monday, extended and unfiltered versions of the guest episodes, access to the Club Cyrus Says Discord server, audio offerings such as ad-free episodes and early access to the guest episodes. Also, members get to decide the topics of the live episodes and get their names on the producer slates at the end credits. So go to youtube.com/@CyrusSays and click on the join button to become a member now. On How to Citizen, Meghnad and Shreyas talk to Marouk Inayat, journalist, news anchor and managing partner at Studio Talk. They talk about how women are changing the world. On Think Fast, Varun and Suchita talk about the presence of FMCG giants online and Mark Zuckerberg's letter to his employees. And on The Wire Talks, Siddharth talks to environmental scientist Dr. Anju Goyal about air quality and the role of air purifiers. Once again, do not forget to visit our merch store on ivmpodcast.com. We've got some super cool and exciting stuff up there for you and your loved ones. Follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. If you like our shows, then do not forget to spread the word. You know it really helps us a lot. And of course, don't forget to rate and review our shows on whatever platform you are listening to them. All our video shows are also available on youtube.com/IVM Podcasts. And finally, we would like to thank our sponsors this week: LIC of India, Yono SBI, Cash Free Payments, and HDFC Mutual Fund. Thank you so much for making this possible.
And we're back. We're still talking to Preeti Nihalani.
Yes, I'm still here.
This is an absolute masterclass, like I said before we went into the break. It's also interesting, Jalasmi reminds me that radio has completed 100 years. That's mad, right?
20 years in India.
20 years in India. Private radio?
Private radio, yes.
20 years in India.
We had Times FM also in between.
Right.
Private and whatever transition period.
Right. Man, I think we're sleeping on something amazing here, right? And I'm going to ask you this because you said this before we started recording, and you said this while we were recording as well. And this is a sort of a googly question, right? People love talking about the stuff that they see, they hear, they watch, they eat. Why don't they talk about radio?
Yeah, it's a difficult question to answer. And so one of the things that we've realized, and we realized, and I'm gonna go back many years. I've spent 2 decades here, so I can give you a lot of examples.
Congratulations on that. I mean, 2 decades building a company like...
Don't make me feel like old and dinosaur.
I can't make you feel old. I'm trying to make you feel good about this. I'm saying, man, that's amazing, right? In a world we live in today, where the average time that a young person spends in a company is 14 months. 14 months. That's it.
Listen, don't indicate anything towards my age. I'm young.
Oh, no, of course. We're all 18 till we die.
Yes. No, I'm 21. It's okay. That allows
you to do more things.
Yes,
You're very smart. I like how you think.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to take you back to one example from, I think, 2004 or 2005. I mean, somewhere around there. Nokia had launched a new phone. If you were... still in that age group of buying phones or looking at media, you would remember that this phone was वो ट्रक वाला एक उन्होंने ऑडियो जिंगल बनाया था जो इसकी बैटरी बहुत चलती है. It was a musical jingle.
Sure.
I think and I'm forgetting the name, it was Nokia 369 or something of that sort. So it was a musical jingle that they had made. And Nokia being Nokia, they did 3 months of TV campaign.
Sure.
After 3 months of TV campaign, they gave 15 days of break.
Right.
And then they did 6 weeks of radio campaign.
Right.
During 6 weeks of radio campaign, they did a research with, I think, AC Nielsen or somebody of that stature. In that research, one of the questions was, have you heard or seen the ad? And when have you seen the ad? Most answers that they got, 80% odd answers that they got was, we've seen this ad yesterday.
Right.
And the TV campaign was off. The only campaign running was radio.
Right.
So, one of the mornings, we get a call from Nokia office saying that, boss, we want you to come down to our office. We have something to share with you. And they were very sweet and nice team back then. And they shared this fact with us saying that, listen, we are surprised. And I think this is a story for radio, right? That people attribute what they hear on radio still to television.
Sure.
Because it brings the memory of what you saw of the trucker driving and talking on the phone. So, see, radio is a background medium.
Sure.
Right? It's more so a podcast like your show is... it's not totally background because you have to keep listening to it.
Sure.
And you can't do writing alongside or you can't. But radio is a medium which is further more leaned back.
Right.
Right. So when it's a lean back medium, unless you do content on that medium, which involves more senses of yours and requires more attention, till then you typically don't talk about it. Right? The same interview. And today, most things that happen on one platform happens on multiple platforms.
Sure.
And it's true for everything.
Sure.
Right? I mean, maybe Pathaan is right now not there on any of the OTT platforms, but soon it will be somewhere.
But people have files on their phones. They've
Absolutely.
already...
So, absolutely. Pirated, shirated, whatever. तो आज की डेट में कोई कंटेंट ऐसा नहीं है जो कि एक प्लेटफॉर्म पे रह जाता है. Right? Every content is on multiple platforms. The news that you read next day morning is already there on Twitter or somewhere. You've seen or heard or talked about it. So there is nothing new or nothing different that you are doing to be spoken about. And as I said, it's a dal chawal medium. It's not, you need it. Every day you need it, right? You can't run away from it. It's the comfort food of yours, but it is not the food that you talk about.
Sure.
However, there are incidences and there are things that we have done on radio which are very, very well spoken about. And some of those being what Jeetu Raj does with some of the taxi union guys.
Right.
We recently did a campaign with the Mumbai police wherein we celebrated the entire Valentine period with Mumbai police. We spoke to the commissioner. A lot of people talked about it. They reshared, tweeted about it, reshared the links that we put on Instagram. All of this came from radio. We spoke about what we did on radio on these platforms and it was like really well appreciated.
Right.
So some of the differentiating content certainly gets talked about.
Right. Is there...
Mirchi Murga?
Of course. I remember these...
ये कहाँ से घूम के वापस मेरे WhatsApp में आ जाता है कि ये whatever.
वो links तो हैं, but let me ask you a slightly tougher question.
Difficult one.
Yeah.
Okay.
The regulatory framework around the content. I can already see you sighing.
आपने regulatory बोला तो मुझे सोचना पड़ेगा क्या बोलना है नहीं बोलना है.
ज़्यादा संगीन नहीं बनाएंगे मामले को, but the regulatory framework around private radio in India doesn't allow you to do many types of content. Right? Can't do news.
Yes.
Can't do political commentary. Can't do almost no current affairs. Right? Is that a hindrance or have you figured out life without it completely?
No, and I'll tell you it is a hindrance.
Yeah.
And we are working with authorities and lobbying around to allow some of these things. These are not the only things. There are a couple of other things. Some of these have been relaxed. For instance, there was capping earlier on you can't have more than 15% of available frequencies.
Right.
So let's say if there are 100 frequencies available, you can't own more than 15.
Right.
So there were some 400 plus auctioned earlier. So out of those, you can only own 15%. So that 15% capping recently, about a few months ago, was lifted.
Right.
So which allows now mergers and acquisitions more easier.
Sure.
But still there is a city level capping. So if there are 10 radio stations in a city, you can't have more than 4.
Right.
So that further, like I told you, in many cities there are 4 radio stations or 5 radio stations. We already own 2 of them.
Right.
So that further, strangulates you in terms of expanding on radio. Then yes, in terms of content, about a couple of years ago, we were allowed to take clippings from as-is from AIR and play it on radio. None of the radio players obviously took it because it's not about news today.
Right.
Today's generation get news on the go.
Instantly.
There is no need for listening to news on radio. It's the opinions that matter. It's the perspective that matters. So which is what is not allowed. We are lobbying. We are requesting. And that's where we are.
Would a show like this ever get a chance on radio?
Of course, why not?
Yeah.
We have done various talk shows we have done. Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. I remember...
There are no restrictions per se, regulatory restrictions. But what framework do you want to operate in? We've done talk shows. We have done celebrity shows on radio. So we have tried and tested many formats.
Speaking of celebrity shows, how's Kareena doing?
I'm meeting her on 24th.
Yeah.
We are shooting next season with her. That's season 4. We skipped one season in between. So she was on pregnancy break and all.
I mean, you had a couple of those really big ones, right? You
Yes.
did Karan. Karan was also yours.
Karan Johar was one of the initial ones
Yeah.
we did. It
Calling
was called
Karan.
Calling
Calling
Karan.
Karan,
It
yeah.
was Agony Aunt
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
We got a lot of feedback from many markets saying, अरे ये किस तरह की बात कर रहे हैं आप रेडियो पे, ये तो फैमिली चैनल है. So Karan was there. We've done Shilpa Shetty we did called Shape of You.
Right.
We recently did Gauri Khan's show, which is called Dream Homes, wherein
Right.
she redesigned spaces for other celebrities. Kareena Kapoor is there. We did one with Mahesh Bhatt as well. Mahesh Bhatt and Pooja, both of them. A few of them we've done. Then we've done some spiritual content as well with Devdutt Patnaik.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What other genres are doing well?
We were doing for many years. Then we thought we'll rehash it and bring it back again. We did a show with Tech Mark. It was called Tech Makni with Rajiv Makni. Rajiv
Right.
Makni, I'm sure you know.
Right.
Yeah, tech space and
The guy who used to be on NDTV, if I'm not mistaken.
exactly.
Right?
Yes,
same guy.
yes. So we did that show for about 3-4 years. I mean, we've taken a break for a while, and then we may bring him back or whatever. So we've done lot of such shows on radio.
Love it. I mean,
And these shows get talked about a lot.
they do.
Yes.
They do. You're right. I mean, I think we're firmly in the day and age where great content is very important to people.
Correct.
You're
But
right.
again, I will say that you cannot restrict any content on one platform. So we are very clear about it that all our shows are multi-platform shows.
Right.
So like Kareena's show will go on radio, will go on Mirchi Plus, will go on all our social media handles and pages in different ways and forms.
Right.
I mean, somewhere we will carry 10-minute video clippings, the whole clipping. Somewhere we will carry the short form videos or whatever.
And that's the sort of content optimization doctrine that we live in
Absolutely.
today, right? You have to do it.
Absolutely.
Right? Otherwise, उसको जितने करोड़ रुपए दे उसका recovery कैसे होगा?
Brands look at that.
Absolutely.
Brands want to see what all will I get on what platforms.
Absolutely.
And every platform plays their own role in that entire journey.
Right. Man, this has been so much fun. I want to ask you a couple more things, but enough about radio. A little bit more about you. You've been in this business for 20 years. Why?
Why have I not left?
No. I mean, let me ask you this in a more PR-y way, right?
अच्छा नहीं ज़्यादा PR मत पूछिए, मैं ऐसे ही बता देती हूँ आपको.
What keeps you
तो,
going, Preeti?
Okay, people who know me, they know me as one of the very high risk takers.
Right.
Right. I joined Mirchi in Calcutta. मैं insurance में थी पहले. So from insurance, it was like I was doing the same job every day because you're giving the same spiel to your clients every day.
Right.
आप मर जाओगे किसी दिन, तब आपका क्या होगा? So
Right.
kind of spiel. From that space, I was, touchwood, doing pretty well there. But from there, when I came to media, I found it really frivolous. I said, ये क्या है यार? वहाँ तो कुछ life का purpose था. ये क्या है? मतलब you're selling air. You're selling a dream. Nobody has seen. उसका ad किसने सुना, किसने खरीदा? Nobody knows. But anyways, the initial days why I stayed back in Mirchi was that I was doing new every day.
Right.
Every day was new. Right? Every day I was creating something for brands. I was learning about brands, their journey, their marketing, whatever. Then I was growing very fast because industry was growing very fast. We launched with 7 stations. We became 32 stations. We became 35 stations. And suddenly we became 73 stations. And then the entire journey of being not just radio. We started doing Mirchi Music Awards, then not only Hindi, we did 8 languages, then we were doing concerts, then we got Bryan Adams, then we got Martin Garrix. So there was a lot of action happening. And I also personally grew in the organization, not only in terms of my own learning, but also in terms of my career growth. I think both journeys met and like-mindedness, the culture of Mirchi, which stopped me, and I stayed around.
And
I didn't realize 20 years passed.
And you also stepped away from
for
it
a year.
For a year. And then
Don't
came.
ask me where did I go, but I went
No.
out in other media. Then I was like kind of pulled back again. कि वापस आ जाओ, घर वापसी करो. So I did घर वापसी again.
And that seems to be a recurring theme with a lot of people, right?
In
We talked about we talked about Ganesh Iyer. I think Ganesh is quit
did
and
2
come back
stints,
twice.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. What is it about Mirchi's culture that keeps bringing people back?
I will say what I told you outside as well again, is that the when you come in Mirchi, you know, and when you go out of Mirchi, if at all you go out of Mirchi, you can take people out of Mirchi, but you can't take Mirchi out of people.
Wow, wow.
So, आपको, and today there are so many colleagues of ours who are working across. We do a get together. We call all ex Mirchiites. Recently, Prashant, the ex MD and CEO who stepped down, so we did a farewell party for him, and we called all ex Mirchi guys. Everybody is happy to come back, and we meet like they've never left.
Right.
So it's like a family. You know, the culture. I mean, I can't explain this in words. You have to experience it.
Love it. Love it. I have.
You know, so many of
I do,
Mirchiites.
and I've been to the Mirchi offices here in Bombay a bunch of times, right? Sometimes on business, sometimes just sharing my learnings, sometimes just to meet people, and it's always a fun vibe.
It is.
It is always a fun vibe, and I think the medium itself has to do a lot with it as well,
Yeah.
right? It is.
So, see, I'll tell you what. Our average age, don't go by mine. Our average age in the company is 24 years.
Right.
So when you have this young generation coming around, and there is bound to be noise. There is bound to be, for us it is normal to go on a first show on a Friday, working day for a movie.
Right.
I mean, we don't say that it is bunking office. It is
Right.
work. You are an entertainment business, boss. If you've not seen the movie,
How are you going to talk about it?
yes, absolutely. So it is perfectly normal for us. We
Right.
don't count it like, okay, I'm bunking office and I'm hiding from my boss and I'm going. So, yeah. So that's there. I mean, some of the in typical corporatish words that I will tell you, the culture that we have, that we imbibe at Mirchi is fun and responsibility.
Right.
So with a lot of fun comes responsibility. काम आप ही का है, आप ही को करना है. आप
Right.
5 दिन में करो या 5 घंटे में करो, आपके ऊपर है. So we don't have swipe cards.
Oh,
Till
wow.
date, we do not have swipe cards.
Right.
We do not have any system wherein you have to write your entry time and exit time.
Mm-hmm.
There is no monitoring कि आपने 8 घंटे दिए या आपने. We don't have half day leaves.
Right.
Right? So we don't have that concept. Then we believe in non-hierarchy, right? So most of our offices that you come to, the new offices, the old offices also, in the new offices we don't have cabins.
Right.
It's open culture. So we call it non-hierarchy driven organization, wherein everybody can talk to each other. Do you know, by the way, I mean, very interesting fact. One of our office boys in one of our cities, he does voiceovers for us. He does voiceovers and he writes for us, and not in ads, but in podcasts. Right. In the stories that we do. So our current head of finance, he's a total entertainment guy.
Right.
So ideas can come from anywhere.
Absolutely.
So and this kind of culture inculcates or encourages people to come up with ideas. Then the third thing that we imbibe is informed risk taking, and that is what has led us to do so many events and get into space where a lot of others find it difficult to tread in. Like I told you, 30,000 videos is not a joke. It's
Absolutely.
serious investment.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, so some of these things is what makes us happy. We say that even if you are a frontline sales guy, you are the CEO of that market.
Right.
You are not like an account manager just doing a job. So, yeah, so there is a lot of empowerment as well.
That sounds amazing. It really does, right?
That's why people love to come back.
Love it. I have 2 more questions to ask.
Yes.
You, right? First thing is, what advice would you give to someone who's starting out in entertainment and is not considering radio as a place to go to work?
Radio is very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you have to challenge yourself, this is the place. But
Right.
if you want to work in comfort, this is not the place. And this is what I tell in every interview to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
If you are looking for comfort, go to television.
Sure.
Because वहाँ पे CPRP, GRP, whatever सेल्स, आपका रेट फिक्स है एजेंसी के साथ में, आपको खाली आरओ लेकर आना है. एंड इफ़ यू आर अ चैलेंजिंग ब्रांड, वर्किंग फॉर अ चैलेंजिंग ब्रांड, दैट ऑल्सो वो जॉनर ले रहा होगा तो उसमें आपका नाम आपको थोड़ा PR से लगा देना पड़ेगा. टेलीविजन, प्रिंट इज ऑल्सो द सेम, राइट. नाउ कमिंग, आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट ट्रेडिशनल मीडियम्स राइट नाउ. Radio is a medium wherein first you have to tell him why radio, and you have to sell radio first, right? Brand तो बहुत बाद में आता है. उसके बाद में रेडियो अगर आ भी गया तो क्लाइंट ये नहीं लेता कि आप मेरे को अच्छा FCT दे दो 5,000 सेकेंड 10,000 सेकेंड. He'll say what need are you gonna serve for me? Then I have to tell him I am gonna create buzz for you in Baroda market.
Right.
Now you can't create buzz by playing some 5,000 seconds on air, right? To create buzz, you have to do many other things. You have to do social media, you have to take influencers in that market, you have to probably call some celebrity there and do some dhol tamasha and talk about it on air.
Right.
And this is what we do. So every product, every solution that we sell to client is an amalgamation of all of these things we do. Now to do this, a sales guy has to apply himself, right? He has to think like a marketer. He has to think like a brand guy himself. Think like us shop ka owner. And then propose a solution.
Right.
So if you have to do a thinking job, then come to radio.
That's a great pitch. It's a great pitch. I mean, Soumya? Convinced?
You want to join?
Shout out to Soumya who helped put this episode together. Last question.
Yes.
We're seeing podcasts emerge in a big way. Right now, जिन लोगों को नहीं पता, रेडियो पे भी कहानियाँ होती थी एक टाइम पे, राइट. एंड नाउ पॉडकास्ट आर द कूल थिंग. ऑब्वियसली not this one, this is not a cool podcast, this is just two people talking. I'm joking. This is a very cool podcast, guys. Tell everyone.
We're two cool people sitting here.
Absolutely. No, but I'm talking about really well produced podcasts that are coming through, whether it's in fiction storytelling, whether it's in horror. There's so much.
Am I allowed to do some brand plug here?
Oh, absolutely.
So listen to some Mirchi Plus content.
No, for sure. I mean, that's what I wanted to ask you about, right? That do you think that there is a reverse migration of content that's going to happen from digital back to radio storytelling, like maybe in the old school days? Do you think there's an opportunity for that? What kind of scope for innovation does it leave you with on the radio?
See, radio is a by the way medium.
Right.
It's not an appointment medium.
Sure.
I sit in my car maybe every day in the morning at 9 o'clock to drive to office or whatever. And at that point in time, I'm not looking at serious content.
Right.
I'm looking at a lean back thing because I'm also in my head thinking, and I'm telling you this consumer story most of us go through. I'm thinking, अरे वो meeting है, इसमें ये बोलना है. So I just play on something so that I can listen to whatever. It's a laid back medium. But when I'm coming back, I don't leave office at the same time.
Sure.
But when I'm going to podcast, I am not in a lean back mode.
Sure.
Right, my mind is engaged. Maybe I am in the gym, but my mind is engaged.
Sure.
Right, and I am paying attention to the podcast. So reverse migration, yes, is possible, but not in exact same way and same format.
Sure.
Because storytelling happens not in 1 minute, 2 minutes. Sure. Right. For good storytelling, you need reasonably good amount of time. 8-10 minute का एक पीस तो आप सुनाएंगे. So for that kind of storytelling, it is difficult to get audience at the right time because it's not appointment listening.
Sure.
आप 9 बजे शार्प रेडियो शुरू नहीं करते. आप 9:05 पे भी निकल सकते हैं या 8:45 भी निकल सकते हैं. So it is not imbibed in the exact same manner. We have tried multiple formats, but one of the same reverse migration format has done fantastically well for us in a market like Calcutta. So I'll tell you something that one of the podcasts that we run on Spotify is called Sunday Suspense.
I love it.
Right? The Bangla version. The Bangla version,
Yeah.
right? Now, Sunday Suspense we've been running for I think more than a decade in Calcutta.
Yeah.
Right? In old days when we subscribed to RAM and RAM was relevant, RAM is radio audio measurement study, we used to, the average TRP's equivalent, I'm talking equivalent terms, for any radio program used to be not more than 1.8 or 2, right? 2 TARPs we used to call it, TARPs. For Sunday Suspense, we used to get 6. 6 is unheard of, right? People would continuously listen to that 40 minute of story. They will tune in at 4 o'clock. In those days on Sunday at 4 o'clock we used to do, or 12 o'clock or something. So they would come at 4 o'clock sharp. They will tune in and they'll go away, whatever. Over a period of time, of course, we made Sunday Suspense available on multiple platforms, including Spotify and all. So, but still we get audiences. When we go and do any research, Sunday Suspense finds the top space in audiences' minds and all. Also, it has a lot to do with the culture of that city. Like Calcutta is die-hard fan of, the stories that we do on Sunday Suspense. So that does happen. We have tried similar formats in multiple markets. The results are mixed, right? So we can say in some way it will work, but in a daily programming, it may not exactly work in the same manner.
Sure.
So what we do is, let's say we launched Nawazuddin Siddiqui's 1000 Crore Ki Laash on, it's a true event, based on true events, story that Nawazuddin has narrated. It's called 1000 Crore Ki Laash on Mirchi Plus. Now, when we launched that, we did clippings of it. And enough clippings to get you to tune into...
Sort of a sampling exercise.
Sure. But if you narrate the whole 10-minute, unless the audience already knows about it, what is it about and all, it's very difficult to hold on. Right? But definitely there are shows that hold on audiences. So it keeps changing.
That's interesting. And I'm glad you brought up Sunday Suspense. Big fan of Indrani, who put the show together. What a legend. And completely aligned. Oh, what a word. Never used on this podcast before, but completely in sync with what you're saying. I know that audiences really love those kind of titles, right? And I'm glad that there is still a spirit of experimentation where you've got the full length available on a digital platform, but you're using radio as sampling distribution sort of a method. I'm sorry I lied to you.
You did?
I have one more question.
Okay.
my last question to you, and honestly this time, is Preeti Nihalani, Chief Operating Officer, ENIL Mirchi.
थोड़ा heavy लगता है.
नहीं, heavy होना भी चाहिए, बिल्कुल. What would be maybe 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 things that would happen?
1, 2 or 3?
Up to you.
Okay.
That would make your job easier. What changes, what developments, what miracles?
ऐसा होता है क्या?
पता नहीं, आपको मैं
आपने मुझे एक मैजिकल ग्लास दे के सोचने बोला है
ना, एक कलम है जिसमें आप जो भी लिखोगे वो सच हो जाएगा. क्या लिखोगे?
मेरी लाइफ बहुत इजी हो जाएगी अगर रेडियो becomes like a 15% medium in advertisers' frame of mind. Looks like tough ask. मेरी लाइफ थोड़ी और इजी हो जाएगी अगर घर में बैठ के आरओ आने शुरू हो जाएंगे.
Now you're asking for a little too much.
Okay, so we've been seriously thinking on, like I told you earlier, radio is a cash cow business for most media houses who are into this business. Now, basic rules of management, cash cow business को आप efficiently कैसे रन कर सकते हैं? वही सवाल आपसे रोज़ एक बोर्ड मेंबर पूछते हैं कि आप बताइए इसकी कॉस्ट और कम कैसे करेंगे, कैसे एफिशिएंटली रन करेंगे. नाउ लाइक आई टोल्ड यू, रेडियो इज़ नॉट बॉट ऑटोमेटिकली, यू हैव टू गो एंड सेल. आई टोल्ड यू आई हैव 63 cities वेयर आई हैव, छोटी से छोटी सिटी में 2 लोग तो रखेंगे आप, राइट? एंड आई हैव अ 300 member टीम, सेल्स टीम. टू रन दैट 300 member टीम आई हैव अनदर 70-80 ops people and support staff and all of that stuff. So we are in our existing business minus of our digital business, we are roughly about 900 odd people.
Wow.
Now, can I run this business efficiently is a question that bugs me. And if I find a solution to that, and we keep experimenting, doing new things, etc., one of the thoughts that we have is, can radio go programmatic way? Right. That will make my job, my life much easier, make operations much more effective. Also give clients, exposure to, direct interaction, and cost of repeat business will become lower.
Sure.
So, yeah, we are working in that direction as well. Let's see how soon.
I hope that works out for you. I think it sounds like the logical next step.
Yep.
Right. And with the kind of technology that's available to us, with the kind of investments that you have made in technology, right? I think I'm pretty sure.
So it's not only about investment, it's about readiness of the market.
Of course.
So that's the key thing.
The other side of
Yes.
the coin, the other shoe to drop, so to speak, right?
And there is always a balance. एक आपको cash cow business आता जा रहा है, and then you think अच्छा छोड़ो वहाँ पे let us not send people and let us hope that the client will come on its own and will go on my platform and log in and say okay I want to buy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always a risk, you know.
Yeah.
So but yeah, we'll balance it out. It'll take us couple of years, and I hope in some time we are able to come over this risk.
I will.
One more question?
No. I will throw a number at you that will give you a little bit of hope.
Okay.
Facebook in India has 3 lakh advertisers.
I'm aware.
Right? And
Yes.
that's the number that will, at some point, I mean, a lot of those are self-serve, a lot of those are, first-time advertisers in that sense. A lot of them are local as well, right? So there's definitely a lot of light from where I see it.
Yes, there
At
is
the end of-
inspiration there.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's where that's my spiel to my tech guy. I tell them that first 3 lakh advertiser है उधर.
बिल्कुल
अपने पास 15,000 है.
बिल्कुल. So it was piece of cake.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, man, this was such a fun conversation. It was a masterclass, like I said. It was also such a light, fun chat to understand what goes into this medium, and what goes into keeping your chair 20 years in.
And for this conversation, I will give you a gift of letting you meet with Jitu Raj and tell you how he looks. And
Man.
if this out, he will kill me if he knows this.
Yeah, you've made my day. This is done. I will hold you to this. Right? That is amazing. Preeti, thank you so much for being
Thank you
on
so much,
Storytellers and Storysellers. This was an absolute blast. Thank you to the team at IVM for staying pretty fucking late, man. And doing this. That's it on this episode of Storytellers and Storysellers. If you liked this episode, what should you do? When you like this episode, what should you do when you like this episode? You should stop whatever you're doing right now. Turn to your right. Tell whoever you see who's standing on your right to listen to this exact episode.
I'm adding. Also turn on your left.
Turn on your left at
And-
Preeti's behest. And
Tell that person
tell that person
as well
to
tune in to your show and also to Mirchi.
Absolutely. Right? So tell anybody who's standing around you right now, if you're listening to this, to listen to this episode and to tune into Mirchi, because this is as good as it gets. Right? Thank you so much once again for being on
Thank you,
this
Vineet.
show. This is Vineet Kanabar saying goodbye.